Hey, what's up guys, it's Marv and welcome back to another Asphalt 9 video and welcome to another episode of Old But Gold, this series where we take a look at some of the oldest cars in Asphalt 9, give them everything we got, throw a bunch of import parts, star them up all the way, and we take them out into multiplayer and see how they do. And in this episode we are taking a look at the McLaren 570S Spider. So for those who were unaware, this is actually one of the oldest cars in the game. It's not quite from the original release, but during the summer update for the second year of Asphalt 9, this car was released with a bundle of other convertible or spider top cars such as the LaFerrari Aperta. So if you play Asphalt 9 multiplayer for any amount of time and you've happened to stumble across one of the Ghost Slipstream seasons, you'll see that everyone is using this car, and there is a darn good reason. This car's top speed for its rank is absolutely incredible. At max with nitro currently, I can go 243 miles per hour with some room with some extra import parts that I don't have, and of course during this specific season you can overclock it. So 243 is about 10 miles an hour faster than all of the other cars at this rank. So this is one of the better cars for Ghost Slipstream, and I'm going to say that a bunch throughout this video, but before I go too far, that is definitely this car's strength is Ghost Slipstream. I do not recommend it for Classic. You can definitely use it on those top speed oriented tracks because it has a higher top speed, but some of the other stats we'll talk about do let it fall down in some of the other categories. So speaking of other stats, let's take a look at them right now besides top speed. So for acceleration, we have 78.51, which is not awful by any stretch of the imagination. But with some of the more recent additions to Asphalt 9, especially in S-Class and A-Class, such as the new Rimac C1 and a couple of other high-end A-Class cars, you have acceleration stats that go well into the 80s, along with top speeds that sometimes don't get as close as this car does, but definitely the acceleration is way beyond. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think this is a really amazing car for Classic, is just because of that acceleration. In Classic, that stat matters a lot more than Slipstream. But don't forget that while the Slipstream does last a while, if you get too far behind your opponents, you won't be able to ride their Slipstream. So okay, the acceleration is mediocre, and that's fine for Ghost Slipstream. But now let's look at handling at around 62, which again is okay, but you'll definitely notice that some of the higher end A-Class cars are going to feel a bit sharper and quicker around the sharp corners. So for example, I use my Pagani Imola quite a bit in both Classic and Slipstream seasons, and the handling on that car, even though I don't have it at max, I'm actually 2 stars away from maxing that car, but nonetheless the handling of that car feels so much sharper than the 570S. Now again, just like the acceleration, I'm not calling the 570S's handling awful or garbage, but it definitely can't handle the competition such as, let's say, the Vanda Electrics. That car is going to destroy pretty much any other car in terms of handling, but you get the idea. It's okay and usable. It's something you want to keep note of when you're driving this car, is that you can't expect to take those corners really quickly. Lastly, we have Nitro, which again is decent at 62, but there are many other cars that go well into the 70s, such as even the Aventador J that is right next to it. I find that the Aventador J is quite a well-rounded car and can do pretty good in Classic, so I definitely prefer the Aventador J to the 570 in that type of multiplayer, but for Slipstream, I'm taking the 570S all day. So I like to talk about stats. It's a good way to tell how easy a car is going to be for a specific season, or how well a car is going to perform at a specific track on paper, but the feeling of a car is always more important to me than the actual stats. And like we saw with the handling, even though the stat seems decent, the handling in my opinion overperforms what the stat might tell you. And overall, I'd say that is the case with this car in general. If you look at the rank next to some of the other A-Class cars, you're not going to expect something that could dominate, especially in Ghost Slipstream if you look at everything but the top speed. But once you take that top speed into consideration and actually put it out on the track and compare it against some of the other high top A-Class cars like you'll see in this video, you can find yourself pretty easily winning podium positions and sometimes first place. Now, towards the end of Platinum League, it's going to get very difficult once you start facing many more Centenarios and D-Tomatoes and Imolas. Those cars both have the top speed and a lot of the other stats to back them up as well. So with this car, you do have to carry a bit of skill if you want to try and get to Legend League only with this car, but it's definitely possible and I've done it before. So if you need a good top speed focused car in Asphalt 9, especially for Platinum League, I cannot recommend this car enough. It is absolutely incredible, and especially for its age, it does really well in Ghost, Slipstream, and Slipstream seasons, but I would keep an eye out for some of those stats because in Classic League, sometimes that can let you down, especially on those shorter tracks where acceleration and handling are much more important than top speed. So as I wrap up this video, I do want to make some comparisons to other cars you might consider as really good top speed focused cars that aren't impossible to get unless you sell your kidney. And two good options are the GT by Citroën and the Peugeot Onyx. Now for the Onyx, that's just a no-brainer. You can get it through the Starway pretty darn easily, so if you don't already have that car, you're gonna get it eventually. And while it doesn't go as fast as the 570S, if I remember correctly, most players are gonna have it only at 5 out of 6 stars, and it's still about 5 miles an hour slower than the 570, but it has some pretty good other stats as well. But the other main rival is the GT by Citroën. Now, that car does have significantly higher top speed, but all of the other stats are kind of garbo in comparison to the 570S, and that's why I love the 570S, is because of its versatility. Now again, the GT by Citroën is going to crush in Ghost Slipstream, but I wouldn't even recommend it at all for Classic, whereas with the 570S, if you're a really good player, the other stats are going to be pretty easy to manage and you can still take advantage of that top speed. But for the GT by Citroën, it is really hard to control and keep at that top speed, especially without Slipstream. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video taking a look at the 570S Spider, a very competent car and one that I absolutely recommend like I said before. But let me know your thoughts, and also let me know any other cars you'd like me to check out for the next episode of Old But Gold in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys later.